No.
How are you?
Pretty good, but
Sure. Did you guys get to take a look at that on film yesterday?
yeah.
What do you see?
Pretty explosive offense, pretty talented in pretty much every position across the board.
Did they remind you kind of you guys at all?
Yeah, because the offensive line pretty aggressive, come off the ball aggressively and try to knock the defensive line heads off pretty much. And they got a passing game and a pretty great running game. So yeah.
What does Lambert kind of add? You know, obviously that everybody knows about the ground game, the running backs, but what does Lambert specifically add to that team?
He adds a passing threat because he's pretty accurate when he's not affected. But I feel like if we affect him enough, we can affect his accuracy throughout the game.
He hasn't made many mistakes thus far. Is that kind of a challenge for you guys to try to force a turnover, force him to do something that he hasn't done this season?
Yeah, because he's a great quarterback, so we have to, as a defensive front, we have to affect him throughout the whole game and try to get turnovers and stuff so we could be in favor for the game.
You guys always emphasize it, but what's been the key to tipping so many passes this year?
Pretty much the key is just you got to get your hands up when they get ready to throw the ball. If you don't get your hands up, you're not going to tip it.
I mean, you guys have always put your hands up there, right? Is there any kind of way you can explain why you're getting so many this year?
I guess before we used to just put our hands up on top of the offensive lineman instead of the passing lanes between the offensive linemen because most quarterbacks don't throw the ball over the offensive lineman.
Weren't you a Georgia fan growing up?
Yes.
And during the recruiting process, wasn't that kind of the school you were locked in on before, like Alabama and maybe some other schools at Berkeley?
Pretty much during the recruiting process, I was locked in on Georgia, yeah.
So how much more significant is this game for you? I'm sure it has to be.
Growing up, I always wanted to play in Sanford Stadium. Like, that's always been a dream of mine. So it's pretty exciting getting ready to go back home and play at UGA for the first time.
So Gino the other day was talking about a conversation that him and Kenyon had after the game, just kind of looking ahead to Georgia as two Georgia guys. Obviously, a game of this magnitude. Have you had any conversations with anybody just about this game?
Yeah, I talked to Gino and Dylan a little bit, and we all excited we get to go back home and play in front of our home, pretty much home state, pretty much.
So what kind of stuff have you guys said during the course of those conversations?
We've just been talking about how excited we are for the game and the atmosphere. We remember going back to like recruiting days and going to the UGA games and how fun it used to be. So it's going to be a fun game going back home to play.
When's the last time you were actually there? Was it one of the recruiting trips?
Yeah, the recruiting trips. One of the recruiting trips back, 2011, I think. Yeah.
As good as they are, it seems like they don't try to trick you. They don't try to trick you. They're coming right at you. Is that a style you like to play against?
Yeah, I prefer like downhill runs and stuff like that because it's just old school football. People love to play. That's how I grew up playing, and that's how I like to play.
And did what I say, does that look accurate? I mean, not tricky, but coming right at you, stop us if
pretty
you can.
much for the most part, they coming right at you. They really don't try to hide stuff. They're just coming at you and try to knock your head off.
And I know people talk about just the smash mouth style they play with and just the physicality of the offensive line that can overwhelm people and the two running backs. But don't you guys feel like an offense of this type kind of plays into your guys' strengths that you guys maybe more than anybody else match up well to what they do?
Yeah, I think we have a pretty good matchup against them because our offensive line is pretty aggressive and they come off and try to knock us out every day. So I think we're going to have a great matchup against the offensive line, and our defensive front, we like the physicalness. We don't like all the elusiveness. We really prefer being physical throughout the whole game.
What have you seen from their offensive line? I know people talk a lot about the running backs, but what does their offensive line do that's tough?
Throughout the game, they don't really let up. They just keep coming at you, and they get like a thrill out of getting good blocks on pancake blocks and stuff like that. So we already know they're going to be physical throughout the whole game and not going to let up on us.
Who's somebody that's impressed you on their offensive line?
I forgot his name, number 54, the center. He's a great offensive lineman.
Have you heard from a lot of folks back home, a lot of Georgia fans?
Yeah.
Your neighborhood?
Yeah, because half of my family pretty much is Georgia fans, so and half of them became Alabama fans just because I came here. So they have like a win-win relationship in this game.
What are the ticket requests like for this game?
It's high. I'm asking my teammates to let me trade some tickets with them so I can get some for my family. But a lot of family members want to come to this game.
Do you have a big family? I mean, how many requests would that be?
I'm close to all my family, uncles, aunts, cousins, and it's
So
a
it's
very big family, so yeah.
Or are they under orders? They have to wear Alabama stuff though if they get your ticket.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of stalwarts, fans in the family that are, just sticking to the Bulldogs instead of, any cousins, brothers that really just want to kind of take it to you?
Not necessarily. I think everybody's gonna go for me on the Alabama side.
So what's something playful that somebody family-wise has said to you about this game? Maybe that's still a Georgia fan.
My cousin told me that either we win or lose, he's gonna be happy just because he grew up a Georgia Bulldog fan. So that's probably one of the things. Yeah.
As a fan, can you understand kind of the elevated nature of this game for both sides a little bit? Do you kind of have a good insight to, obviously, for y'all trying to obviously get one win in the SEC, get back in the national title hunt, and Georgia trying to create some legitimacy to their program?
Probably in high school I would have, but now I'm just focused on our game plan, trying to execute our game plan to get the win.
Going back to the batted balls, does that hurt at all?
Some of them hurt more than others. Yeah.
Who's thrown the hardest pass so far?
The hardest pass, probably in practice when Coker threw one, and it was like point blank range, and I blocked it. Had my hand numb for a few days.
From the other side, how have you seen Coker kind of take the reins, so to speak, since he's been named the starter pretty much?
He comes in every day with the heads on right and just practices hard just like any other quarterback who's been here in the past.
Nick Chubb. What do you see from him, and how big a challenge is that?
He's a great running back. He's physical. He's not afraid to run into a defensive player, and you just have to wrap him up. You can't arm tackle him. He's not that type of running back.
How much have coaches talked about the other running back, number one, and just harped on what he can do?
He's physical too. Like, they have a great set of running backs over there, just like we do, and you just pretty much have to focus on wrapping them up and not arm tackling throughout the game.
Do you think having the experience of playing against Derek and Kenyon and kind of what they provide, and even Damian a little bit, will prepare you for this matchup more than most others?
I believe so, because our running backs are taught to be physical and always run downhill. So our running backs, even if they're afraid or not, they're going to run into you. You're going to feel it. So I feel like this is going to prepare us a lot for it.
Okay. Thanks, Dalvin.